The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
Hi, Irma.
Why can't I see anything?
We can hear you, Irma.
Hi, Miriam.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. But I can't see you.
That's
That's
right.
right.
There's no cameras today.
Oh, okay. But it's okay.
That's because I'm nude.
All right, partner. Yell if you need it.
All right, thank you,
Okay,
sweetie.
good talk.
I could get best reception in the shower.
So we'll begin in just a few minutes.
Okay.
Glad you were able to make it on, Miriam.
Well, I had my technical OIT media services guy here. He just left because I was like, I can't do this alone.
How nice.
So it was really nice. He came and made sure that I was hooked up properly because I didn't trust myself technically.
Well, I think it's always this is Nancy, I think it's always a good, once we get through one of these, when you've never done one before. And
Right.
then the next time you feel more comfortable because you know what the technology is like.
Exactly.
So I'd like to welcome Cynthia Ward and Joan Brummer, who just joined us. Actually, I'm sorry, Joan Brummer Holden, who just joined us. Cynthia and Joan are both ATHE staff members.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. And I'd like to welcome Karen Jean Martinson.
Hello, can you hear
Hi,
me?
Karen.
Hey, Karen.
Hi.
So, Sean, I know that Roger Sorensen said he's not going to be on the call. He emailed me separately. So just so you know.
Okay.
Sean, do you want to maybe tell everyone why we've opened the mics this time?
Sure. So, everyone, so what we did is we opened the mics. Well, let me go back and explain a little bit. First, we had originally in other webinars had all of the mics on mute. But what happened was people were saying that they needed the interaction of being able to talk and that sort of thing. So what we've done is we're going to close down the mics during the presentation format or during the presentation, and then when we come to questions, we'll ask you to use the little raise your hand button, which should be on your GoToWebinar control panel on the right hand side of the screen, and raise your hand, and then I'll open up your microphone and you can ask your question, and then we can get some responses. There may also be times when I'll open up all the mics. Does that make sense to everyone? You can raise your hand to say yes if you want.
Yes.
Oh, look at that. I'm getting lots of high fives.
Okay, great.
All right, it's 2:03 p.m., so I think we'll go ahead and get started. As you see, this is the ATHE Focus Group Representative Training, and I am on the line. My name is Sean Franklin Sewell. I'm the ATHE Communications Manager, and we have on the line Trish Ralph, Fred Rubeck, and Nancy Erickson. Fred.
Yes. Well,
This is Fred Rubeck. I am your current member at large for operations, and I'd like to join Sean and welcome you to the second ATHA Focus Group Representative webinar. Yay!
Yay!
Yay.
And glad to be here with Sean and Trish and Nancy and everybody else. Sean was naming everyone off. Do I even need to go through this list, Nancy, do you think?
Oh, sure. Say it one more time.
Okay, sure. This is who's on my list. I'm not sure who actually made it. And some of the names weren't complete, so I'm making a good guess at some here. Do I have Cassidy Browning? And you mentioned Joan Bremer. Daniel Ketting, Leah Lowe, Karen Jean Martinson, Dennis Massman, Irma Mayorga, Miriam Mills, Jen Scott Mobley, Barbara Parisi, hey Barbara, and Chase Waits. We hear Roger Sorensen is not joining us after all. So that's everyone we were expecting today, and welcome. We hope that this training will provide a useful preface to the on-site meetings we're going to hold for current and incoming focus group reps on Wednesday, July 31st from 9 to 1 in Orlando. This webinar will also be posted on the ATHA website on the leaders page after today for your reference at any time if you want to look it up for a refresher. So, moving right along. Next slide, please, Sean. Our primary objectives for this session are first, to understand the responsibilities of focus group reps, and second, to identify the relationships they have with the governing council, and third, to clarify the interrelationship with the members at large, sometimes called the MALs, but never called the MALs, according to Trish. So, MALs. Thank you, Trish. As outlined in ATHA's bylaws, the purpose of the focus group representative is first, to advise the governing council about issues that need to be addressed, second, to facilitate communication between various interest groups, and third, to facilitate services that members desire. So let's take a closer look at some of these things. Next up, Sean. The first purpose, advising the governing council about issues that need to be addressed, can be accomplished during the focus group rep governing council meetings that are held the day before the start of the annual conference. Focus group reps can also raise issues with the members at large anytime during the year. But if there's an action to be approved by the governing council, the timing for formulating a motion should be before the mid-year meeting in January or before the July-August governing council meeting so that it gets on the agenda in time for those to be acted upon and discussed. Our second, next slide. The best way to directly communicate with other focus group representatives and with all conference planners is through the ATHA FGR-CP at atha.org listserv. That's a lot of letters. The members of the governing council receive these emails as well, but they don't participate in any discussion that's going on. If you want to communicate to other focus group reps, you can use the ATHA FGR at atha.org listserv. If you want to reach other members who may not be in the focus group or people who may not even be ATHA members, you can use ATHAcast at atha.org to send information regarding focus group issues, concerns, or queries. When people join or renew their ATHA membership, they can select up to 3 focus groups of interest. A list of names and emails of members interested in your focus group will be sent directly to each FGR by September 1st each year. However, you can request an email list from the ATHA office at any other time of the year, and everyone who signed up under your focus group when they joined or renewed will be included in that list. ATHA member list is a mechanism for the president only to communicate information to all current ATHA members. ATHA News provides a spot for focus groups to communicate news and events on a monthly basis. All focus groups are welcome to send items of interest to that through Sean, I believe, right? Through communications at atha.org. That's incomplete on my little list there. Next up, please. Focus group representatives can facilitate member services by listening to the needs of their members at the annual conference focus group membership meetings. Each group tends to have 1 or 2, sometimes more of those. The FGR usually decides the agenda for these meetings, which may include time for soliciting conference planning ideas for the next conference, as well as any other issues your group is facing. The ATHM annual membership survey is another great way to learn the needs of ATHM members. The results of the annual survey are usually disseminated at the conference meeting and then posted online as well. At the DC conference in 2012, ATHA held 3 membership research groups, and that report can be found in the members tab of the web page as well. 3 membership research groups will be held in Orlando Wednesday the 31st at 6:30 to 8, and Thursday 11:30 to 1, and then 1:30 to 3. An individual invitation to each conference attendee was just recently sent. I think it was yesterday or the day before.
Could I just interject, Fred? This
Please,
is Nancy.
please.
If you want to be part of one of those groups, you need to sign up like as soon as we're done with this webinar, because there's only a few places left in each group.
Very good. I'm glad those are filling up.
Yes.
There are 2 examples of how focus group reps have helped move forward member requests include, one is starting with the 2006 Chicago conference, the Governing Council enacted a policy to provide graduate student housing whenever possible. And another example is that ATHA now covers each focus group for liability for pre or post conferences off-site or in the conference hotel through an annual insurance rider. And those are issues that bubbled up through focus group reps to the governing council. So it's just a couple of examples of the many things that have worked that way over the last several years. And as the next slide will indicate, we have reached a point where we can take a few moments and see if you have any questions about what we've covered so far. A reminder, you can type your question in the box, or you can click on the little hand button and raise your hand, and Sean will activate your mic. So, what questions do people have? You don't want to make Trish and me sing, so please do ask some questions.
Oh, sweet mystery.
Oh, it's already started. I see this is this session is being recorded, which is really nice. So, you know, considering
Jen Scott has a question.
Excellent.
Hi, Jen. You can go ahead and ask your
I
question.
feel that I've missed a trick.
Nope, you got it.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
I feel like I've missed a trick. What do we need to sign up for that the spaces are filling up?
That's the membership research groups.
Okay.
So that invitation just went out yesterday, and those groups are almost full. So if you're interested and able to make any of the times, such as Wednesday night 6:30 to 8, Thursday 11:30 to 1 in the morning, and 1:30 to 3 in the afternoon, go ahead when we're done and sign up for one of those.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
And Irma has a question.
Yes.
Hi, Irma. Go ahead with your question. Irma, are you there? Irma? Sounds like technical difficulties.
Why don't you ask her to write in her question?
Type in the box, yeah.
I will.
While we're waiting on that, you might think about a few things, giving different ways that we might advise the GC about issues that need to be addressed, or ways we can facilitate communication between various interest groups or help broker interest groups together, or services that the members desire. Is there anything that we might clarify? It's very quiet in Cyberland.
They're just getting started.
I know.
Don't
Well,
keep
so
listening.
I'd be interested in knowing if people remember getting the list of members that were interested in their focus group or such that I sent out, etc.
Never.
That's one of the things that comes up almost every year in the FGR meetings at the beginning of the conference, is a desire for those lists, and we always say, well, they're there. and you can have them anytime you want. So we're hoping that they do get out and get used.
So let's move on then, huh?
Oh, we have a
Sure.
couple of more questions.
Oh, sorry.
Irma asked, is there a way to find out people's status as ATHE members? So let me explain a little bit because I know what she's saying. So Irma just recently ran an election for the Latina focus group, and she asked me for those lists, and I gave them to her. But obviously, there are people who have joined the listserv who are not ATHE members.
Oh, that's a great question.
So, Irma, I think the answer to your question is if you want only ATHE members, then you should, when you ask or when the next group asks for the list, then they should say that, and I'll only give you the list of people who have joined and expressed their interest, their focus group preference interest through the join process, rather than also giving you the list of people who have joined your listserv, because those people don't have to be ATHE members, but obviously the other ones do. And Miriam, I believe, had a question. I'm going to open her microphone. All right, Miriam, go ahead with your question.
Hi, thank you. I guess I'm curious as to the kinds of issues that I'm supposed to communicate to you regarding the needs of the acting program. Can you give me some examples of the kinds of things that would help facilitate communication? What are some of the issues?
Well, I'll start us off at least. We've had a lot of discussion over the years about different things like the process of getting panels or presentations accepted into the conference, and issues related to that, issues related to conference grants and how those operate. If you just hear members concerned about any issue at all that is related to the larger organization, it's really that the focus group reps are one of the prime conduits for that information to get back and forth.
May I follow that up, please?
Sure.
There is a meeting in January. Do all focus group reps go to that meeting?
That really depends on the needs of the organization each year. Sometimes we're doing strategic planning work, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And we've invited segments of the FGRs or the entire FGR group, and some years none at all. So it really depends on what's going on in the bigger picture. But always we have the meetings in August.
You always
The
do.
other, excuse me, the other kind of thing that you could bring forward is, for instance, if you wanted ATHA to pursue, say, something in terms of faculty or staff peer review, you wanted that issue to be addressed, something that would that's integral to your focus group, but also the membership at large. In what way that ATHA as a whole could help individual members, and you become the conduit that brings that forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam.
Thanks.
All right, it appears as if we don't have any more questions right now, so we can move
Great.
on.
All right, on to the next slide then. The common structure for all focus groups includes two positions that are noted in the ATHA bylaws and operations manual, both located on the leaders page found under the documents within the About Us tab. That's a nice little tab. These include, first, focus group representative, and second, focus group conference planner. Each position should have a 2-year term. ATHA does not specify anything about how many times the same person can serve as an FGR or CP, or the qualifications other than being an ATHA member in good standing. The operations manual does state the following. The focus group representative and conference planner must be different people who are willing to hold 2-year terms. Focus group bylaws must state that FGR and CP are elected at least a year in advance of beginning their term so that people elected will have ample notice of meetings and will be able to train properly to assume their responsibilities. A little later, let's talk about whether or not this is common practice in your focus groups. Perhaps we can learn something and find ways to help make that happen in a more effective manner or reflect reality better. Second, the focus groups can decide to have additional offices or positions, and how nominations and elections work vary from group to group. So that's up to each one to determine. Many focus groups have their own bylaws, and several focus groups are separately incorporated nonprofit organizations. Some examples of that include VASTA, ATDS, WTP, a few other groups. Some focus groups even charge a separate fee to be members, so that's also an individual thing in a way that funds can be raised for various focus group activities, even if you aren't separately incorporated. And the focus group creates its nomination or election process for the focus group rep, and the main responsibility of the FGR is to be a liaison between the focus group and the governing council. So that's a really important function. It's easy to get caught up in the organization of your own focus group, but remember it's an important link to the governing council and the rest of the organization. This is primarily accomplished through the nomination and election of the members at large, and election of one member of the nominating committee. And these all happen on that Wednesday meeting prior to the conference. It's also accomplished by suggesting names for candidates on the election ballot, helping us find great candidates. Participation in the FGR and conference governing council meetings before the conference. Participation in the mid-year meetings as needed. We were talking about that just a little. Mid-year meetings actually in January. It's kind of odd to think of it that way, but that's the middle of our activity year. Took me a while to get used to that too. And participation on one ATHA committee while you're serving as a focus group rep. A new nomination process was initiated this year. I'd like to thank Nancy for pushing us in that direction to solicit candidates for the 2 open MAL positions and for a member of nominating committee. We were really trying to beef that process up and highlight the importance of the positions that are being elected rather than just arm wrestling for a willing volunteer at the conference itself. So I'm glad we're seeing that move along. Each focus group elects a focus group conference planner as well, and the focus group conference planner helps manage the conference planning process as is defined by the focus group, as well as working with the governing council conference committee to develop panels that respond to the conference themes and their constituencies. And this person is also involved in all sorts of important ways between ATHA and the focus group to make sure that the interests of both are met in this process. A little more on that. Next slide, please. The FGR and CP work closely during the vetting process and collaborate on evaluating if any practices or procedures need to be amended. The conference planner has an active role in the notification process for conference programming and attends 2 meetings during the annual conference to learn about the process and the theme for the next year. Focus groups attending the January meetings voiced interest in learning about successful vetting process, and this can be done through the ATHA FGR CP listserv. So that involves all the focus group reps and the conference planners and the GC getting those emails, or perhaps by setting aside time on the Wednesday pre-conference meeting for small group work on this. And I imagine we'll be spending some time on that on Wednesday. We're still developing our agenda for that meeting, so if you have some feedback for that today, I would love to hear about it. According to the operations manual, the FGR and FGCP are elected for 2-year terms. Focus groups should promote a balance between continuity of officers and the need to cultivate new leaders in ATHA, not just in the focus group, but in ATHA. It's an important concept, I think. One way to do this is to have a year where the 2 positions overlap so they can learn each other's duties and one can be transitioning in while the other is getting ready to go out. FGRs attending the pre-conference meetings are reimbursed for 1 night's hotel room plus tax by submitting a receipt and reimbursement form to the ATHA office after the conference is over. If an FGR has a conflict with attending the required meetings, a designated replacement or proxy can attend in their stead. We've reached another question panel. Do you have any burning questions about this focus group structure, the election cycle, what it's like in your group, how that differs? You can remember either click on the little hand or type your question in the box. Sean, do we have anybody queuing up?
We don't.
Do we? Do the focus groups seem to be following the 2-year process and having the overlap for somebody learning the job ahead of time? Is that a very common practice?
Ah, here we go. Jen Scott has
We needed it.
a question or a comment. Hi, Jen. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm just kind of answering Fred's question. W2P is, I sort of inherited this structure, and I'm not sure it's ideal, but we seem to have, our pre-conference is so big that the way we've structured it is we have that person who has their job as the pre-con planner, then we have the focus group rep / president, and usually the pre-con planner moves into that role, and our conference planner is sort of a separate position that gets elected every 2 years in the same way. So that person might not necessarily have received, it might not necessarily have been in the working in tandem with the focus group rep the way you guys are suggesting, which sometimes makes for some snafus.
Right.
Does the new conference planner overlap at all with the current conference planner in your case?
The pre-conference or at the conference?
The at the conference.
Not necessarily. If I were to, if the person, Rose Malek, who's doing the position now, is a long-standing member of ATHA, and so she's pretty, we tend to elect people who have a history with ATHA for sure, but they might not have always functioned as a focus group rep. Although once I move down from focus group rep or move out of that role, it might be something I would be interested in doing.
Sure.
But until this tutorial, I wasn't necessarily aware that that is kind of a, you know, a suggested way to do it.
Well, some groups do the conference planner moving up to focus group rep, and some don't. Playwrights used to do that, and then they stopped doing it because they found candidates didn't want to sign on for 5 or 6 years.
Well, that's the trick too. I mean, I think that's a lot of people's concerns. They're reluctant to. And in our organization, if you sign on to be the pre-conference person, you're basically signing on to then be the focus group rep the next year. Although training as the pre-conference person does not necessarily prepare you to be the focus group rep.
True.
Okay, we have another question or another comment right now from Irma. And Miriam, I have you as well. Jen, I'm going to say goodbye to you.
Bye.
And Irma's comment is that their FGR and conference planner work hand in hand to get all the things ready for the group. But right now they don't do any kind of electing 1 year before they take office, probably because the group is so small. And that's one of the things that Irma is thinking about, which is that they're working on cultivating leaders from year to year. All righty, and now, oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. That can be a real challenge, I think, depending on the size of the group. So.
Sure. And now I'm going to open up Miriam's microphone. And Miriam, go ahead, please.
In the acting program, we do elect a year in advance. I was the conference planner for the last 2 years. I was supposed to be a vice focus group rep for the following year, not this year coming up, but our focus group rep had to resign due to some personal issues. So I'm going into the program without having any preparation, and it makes me a little bit nervous that I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do as a focus group rep and how I'm supposed to proceed. But we do have it in advance. The other thing that we do is we do have conference planner. We don't have a separate conference planner and pre-conference planner, which we're going to initiate this year. We're going to elect someone separately to do that.
Great.
And I think I would encourage you to rely on your members at large with any questions you have about what you should be doing as a focus group rep, along with asking your organization, you know, your focus group, what they need from you. But we're here to help.
All righty. Miriam, I'll say goodbye to you. And Karen Jean Martinson has a question, and she says, you mentioned that each focus group representative serves on one ATHE committee. And she asks if these committee assignments, if these are assignments, or if not, how do we choose which one we will join?
One of the times we do this primarily is at the Wednesday meeting before the conference. We ask people for their preferences, and then committee chairs assemble their committees with that in mind. Places where you preferred.
All righty. Any other questions, everyone, before we move on? All right, seeing none.
Thank you very much. We'll now switch over to Trish, who will talk about how FGRs work within ATHA.
Okay. Okay. Each year, the focus group elects 2 members at large and 1 person to serve on the nominating committee. The FGRs are asked to suggest names for positions on the election slate. Each member at large is a liaison to a particular committee or group or to the president. Considering that there are 16 members on the governing council, being able to elect 1/4 of that body is an important responsibility. This year, a more rigorous nomination and election process for these positions has been put in place in hopes of opening the field more widely to the membership. Next slide. Okay, well, members at large, liaison to operations, for outreach, FGRs, finance, are elected by the focus group representatives. These individuals must be ATHA members in good standing and may come from the membership at large, a self-nomination, or through nomination by the focus group representatives. As liaisons to the Operation Committee and the Finance Committee, these 2 members at large can participate in governance decisions as well as understand the financial details in budgeting and auditing. The liaison for outreach works with the president and affiliate members and at the standing committees to assure that ATHA's work with like-minded organizations is being monitored. The liaison for the FGRs has the closest ongoing relationship to focus groups and focus group representatives and should be available for ongoing consultation. Now, this is of particular interest. No focus group may use the association's nonprofit 5013C status for itself. If in the process of setting up a pre-conference, let's say using an outside space, and the facility needs a tax ID number that would mean contacting the ATHA office to work out the arrangements with the vendor. ATHA would then pay the vendor for the space on behalf of the focus group and as part of the focus group's pre-conference grant award. Now, an additional FGR responsibility. As focus group representatives, you are expected to attend the FGR meeting that runs from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the Wednesday before the conference. As Fred stated before, that's July 31st this year. A substitute or proxy can be sent in cases where the FGR cannot attend. Participation in the FGR and the FGR Governing Council meeting is required. The FGRs have attended several mid-year meetings, either as a whole, that is all of the FGRs, or a smaller subsection, whenever there has been a strategic plan in its infancy and planning stages. That input is critical to the process of deciding how to spend time, money, and human resources to do the most important work of the association. The mid-year and annual reports are required from every focus group representative, as well as from every governing council members. These are submitted online. Submitted reports, as well as the report form, are posted at the Association Leaders page as follows. You would go to the website, log in with your username and password, go to About Us, below that Documents, and then Leaders page. There you will need to provide the special password provided by Sean. The President uses these reports to help plan the FGR-GC meeting agenda. If there are motions to come before the Governing Council, those would be put forward by a member at large. As we mentioned earlier, the hope is with the new nominations and election process in place for 2013, more candidates will put their names into nomination so that the membership at large has representation. A link to the candidates' photos, bios, and vision statements was sent to the FGRs on July 1st. While the new process allows for write-in candidates during the paper ballot voting at the meeting, the person must be an ATHA member in good standing. The nominating committee consists of 5 members, a chair, which is the immediate past president when in that office, 2 members appointed by the president and approved by the governing council, 1 member elected by the membership, and 1 member elected by the FGRs. The yearly election slate is presented at the January mid-year meeting, approved and then posted in April and elected in May. These responsibilities give the FGRs and focus groups an important representation in the governance of ATHA. Are there any questions about responsibilities or how the members at large work and so forth? Remember, just type your question in the message box or click the raise your hand button to ask your question out loud.
Could I jump in here to clarify something while we're waiting for questions?
Sure.
I always think about things that confused me when I was starting in leadership and try to clarify those. There's 2 different kinds of elections that Trish was talking about over the last few slides. One is the election of specific things that the focus group reps nominate and elect at our Wednesday meeting, and that's the members at large and the member of the nominating committee. The larger nominating committee itself is determining officers for the larger organization, such as treasurer and the vice presidents, president-elect, conference planner, that sort of thing. So those 2 things are both going on, and we're participating at different levels in each one.
All right, everyone, do you have any questions so far? Raise your hand and I'll open up your microphone, or just type your question into the question box. All right, I'm not seeing any questions.
Do you think the new nomination process will make a difference in how FGRs perceive the member-at-large position and the nominating committee member role?
Let's see.
Anyone?
Irma's raised her hand, so I'll go ahead and unmute Irma. Hi, Irma, go ahead. Can we hear you now?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you now.
Yay.
I've been fiddling with my computer, and I had tested, like, I have a mic and headphones before we started, and then you kind of went on air, and everything went no. So sorry about that. And then I fiddled with it more as you were going over information. One of the questions that I have is about the report to the president, because I've noticed that in these last 2 years, because the conference planner and our FGR work really close at hand in tandem almost as co-directors, is often we only have like news to report, and so we're kind of like, well, we could tell them a member published a book. We don't have necessarily a question or a proposal, and so we're kind of sometimes struggling with what to give the president in those reports. Is there any suggestion to so that we're not struggling up with, like, well, what should we tell them?
Well, I'm the one who takes in all the reports, so obviously I read all of them.
Yeah.
And I think that the governing council as well, when they look at those reports, they really like to get a sense of what's going on in the focus group. So if all you have is news of note about what things your focus group is doing, I think that's great. Then
Okay.
if you have issues or things that you'd like talked about of a more serious nature, then
Mhm.
those can go on there as well. But everybody loves just good news. So,
Okay, I just wanted to check in because I know that my current focus group rep and I have really said, well, we could tell them about so and so published a book and we're really happy, or that we had a lot of people submit for panels. So I was just wondering if that's okay because sometimes that's what our news consists of.
I think it's totally fine.
And save
Okay.
up your notes from your meeting, your annual meeting, for reporting at the mid-year meeting, the mid-year report.
Okay. Good idea.
And I think it's
Either that or
also
think of it as creative writing.
it's also totally acceptable, I think, to put things in there and say, I'm not sure if this needs action or not, but we're wondering about this. And then
Okay.
somebody will get back to you on it. I've noticed, especially in the last few years, that agendas for our meetings are really coming out of these reports now that they're more dependable and they're more formatted online. So it's a great way to get an issue or a topic noticed and, if appropriate, acted on.
Excellent. Great.
all right, Irma, I'm going to say goodbye to you for now. Are there any other questions or comments at this time? All right, I don't have any.
Okay. Well, I had a question, Fred.
Yes.
Are the nominating committee members part of the GC?
No, they are not.
Okay. Well, you take the mic.
All right, I will. Thanks. Trish and I are going on the road after our terms are up. So next, we'd like to talk about some of the focus group benefits. Specific line items for grants for pre-conferences, which are at $5,000. Debut panels, which are $2,000, but granted through the conference grant process. And conference sessions up to $5,000 are available by focus group requests. In addition, ATHA pays $2,300 annually to insure all focus groups against liability for claims happening during a pre or a post-conference. It's especially important seeing how many of those have been happening regularly over the last handful of years. ATHA also provides web space for hosting focus group websites. And a regular column for focus group news appears in the monthly ATHA News, which I hope you check out each month. ATHA's communication manager is also available to assist and is excellent at doing so with specific electronic communication requests. So those are some things to make sure you're taking advantage of. Next up, please. Also some documents to make sure that you're aware of. These documents are critical to your understanding of ATHA's structure, governance, and your important role within the organization. The fact that they're posted online where you can get at them is really helpful if you want to just look and read about a certain thing. They're really the center of understanding how ATHA works. Keeping the goals of the strategic plan in your thinking as well as your focus group can help make sure that ATHA is moving forward with that vision. The strategic plan is meant to encompass the whole organization, not just the larger one and the focus groups operating separately. It was designed to be part of how we all operate each year. Next up, this next slide will show a few resources and how to track into them. This is a screenshot from the tab About Us, and it shows where to locate documents, find the bylaws, minutes, associations, leaders page. As mentioned earlier, you'll need a special password for the leaders page, which is separate from your own login just to the website as a member, and Sean provides that. You need to first log in and then get access to the leader page using the special password. So, with that mysterious, we're getting ready to wrap up the webinar. A reminder of your current members at large: Alethea, who is the liaison to focus groups, myself, liaison to operations, Trish, who is liaison to finance, and Chase, who is liaison to the president and affiliates for outreach. And these are your best resource for answering questions. Happy to talk with you about any aspect of the organization or your focus group and how it operates. Don't feel like you have to figure out which one to call. If you know one, just give whoever a call or an email, and we'll send you in the right direction or help you directly or help you figure out who should be. And the two positions going up for election are my position. I'm rotating out after 2.5 terms, I believe, and Chase's outreach for liaison. Is that correct, Nancy? It's liaison.
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's
that
correct.
one is being elected as well. And those elections will happen on Wednesday. So please think about that before we get to that meeting. And finally, the last screen, your final opportunity, well, at the webinar, to ask any questions. You can either, again, type them in the box or raise your little electronic hand and Sean will call on you. So consider the benefits. Are there any other things you want to talk about regarding the benefits we've discussed or benefits you wish we had? I hear the Jeopardy theme song playing right now.
Irma has another comment or question. Hi,
Yes,
Irma,
Irma.
go ahead. Irma?
I have a question about the, can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay, good. I have a question about the funding that you mentioned for pre-cons, because my question before you mentioned the amount was, what is the like the top amount that we can request? And it was 5,000, you said?
No, that's the total budget line.
Total budget. I was like, that's a lot.
That would be a lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. And so is that split, because we struggle each year as a focus group thinking about a pre-con. So me going in, what we've done is we're going to try an every other year system, not only because of funding, but also because of the time it takes. And our members are so kind of across AFA that they want to go to Women in Theater, they want to go to Performance Studies, they want to go to everybody's pre-con. They want to do everything. So so my question is, what is some of the average amounts that people get for pre-con? And then I heard also there's a grant for the supportive debut panels. And what does that go towards? Because I've never known that there was money available for debut panels.
Okay, so that qualifies under the conference grant. So, you know, when you apply, right?
Yeah.
And you propose something and there's the conference grant section. There's an other place there. And through the years, many focus groups have asked for nominal money, like $100 a winner for their debut panel. And then that's been granted from that line item. So basically, this past year, the amount that was totally used for those debut panel requests was around $2,000.
Well, that's wonderful, because we've always gone, well, we would love to give our debut panelists an award, a monetary kind of gesture of some kind, and I never knew that existed.
Sure.
So that's good to learn. And then for the pre-con, how much can we normally expect between all the people, all the groups that it divides out to receive?
Well, I wouldn't use the word expect. I think the better way to do it is put your program together, decide what you think is most critical to that pre-conference, and then ask for that money. So in other words, the kinds of things that have been funded have been artists. We've funded food, we've funded space outside the hotel. So those are the primary types of things. Travel fund for someone who's coming from out of the country sometimes. And I think the harder thing is if you can pair that with having that person be part of a panel during the conference, then there's the chance that you might be able to get some money from the regular conference grant process.
Okay.
That would sweeten it for that person to come a day ahead and then hopefully stay a day or two after your pre-conference.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Are there any other questions? You can type them into the box or raise your hand. Miriam has a question.
Yes.
Hi, Miriam.
Hi. Next year, our conference is going to be in Phoenix. Is that correct? And the following year in Canada. Do I have that correct?
That's correct. It's actually Scottsdale next
Scottsdale.
year. Yeah, and then Canada, and then Chicago.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions? Barbara has one.
Hi, Barbara.
Oh, she just has a comment. She says, "This is really wonderful." That's nice to hear, Barbara. Thanks.
Thanks, Barbara.
Won't you turn her mic on?
Hi, Barbara. You can speak now and tell us how wonderful it is.
No, I just think it's really great. I do. Having done the boot camps for as many years as I did, having to try to explain all of this, I just think it's really fabulous. You could just sit here, take your notes, absorb it. It's peaceful, you know, and I enjoyed it. I mean, 100%. It held my attention. It was great. And I know most of this, so, but for me, just the whole technology and the whole thing, I think it's fabulous. That's what I want to say.
How
I really
nice.
enjoyed it.
Thanks.
Great to hear it. So, Fred, I think there's one more slide, right?
I believe we have one more, yes. Okay, well, we want to thank you for the questions, and there will be a 6-question assessment sent to you by email 1 hour after we are done with the presentation. We would really appreciate it if you would give us your feedback. It's very important, and thank you ahead of time for doing that. Another reminder, this training module will be posted on the leaders page within a week, and we really look forward to seeing you in Orlando. Thank you very much for being here today. This was a great group.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.